a great place for learning the difference between how things are and how things seem. And one thing that, if you can call it appreciate, I don't even know what the right word, like I said, is about this election and even about what's bubbling to the surface is these are things that are here and have been here and are now, we can't ignore them. And I think in the long run, that's a good thing. Nothing is festering anymore, right? The wound is open, and people can see it, and I think that's a good thing because when you see it, you know where it is, and hopefully you can address it directly.
Definitely, I would agree with you on that. That's something that you can address and deal with once you see what the wound is, and also anytime that it's like any kind of confrontation. Once you understand what the other side opinion and attitudes are, it's easier to deal with them once you know where they are coming from.
That's right, and it's pretty clear, what their opinions are and where they're coming from. And I appreciate that. It's not. There's no. Many of their allies in the U.S. Congress, people talk about dog whistles. I'm sure y'all are familiar with that. Basically, something that only other dogs can hear.
Right.
Right. It's a word or phrase that sounds like it's all right, but it speaks to something deeper. It speaks to, white supremacy, for example. And so other white supremacists know what you're talking about, even though it sounds okay. But what's happening now is it's very straightforward. There's no code language, and so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that. That's kind of like the difference between institutional racism and the more outright racism. Institutional racism we probably can fight a lot easier because we know that that's where it's coming from an institutional standpoint. It's actually interesting that you bring that up because I was talking to a friend of mine from Charlottesville, and I'm hoping to have her as a guest on the show in an upcoming edition, but she's a divinity professor here in Durham, and she actually taught in Charlottesville. So she was not actually surprised by what was going on in Charlottesville, but she says that that's something that's been festering in that community for a while, this kind of institutional racism that has existed in that city for a long time. Of course, they're proud of their history with Thomas Jefferson, but even Thomas Jefferson had his issues with his attitudes toward us and everything. But she was just saying that this is not anything in terms of what is going on in that community that she was not aware of, and she taught there, I think she said, for like 7 or 8 years. So I'll find out more when she's on our show. But she's basically, we're having this conversation yesterday evening, and she was like saying that she was definitely moved by what was going on and was touched by it because that's, to her, one of her homes. But at the same time, she was not overly shocked because this was something that she fought with and dealt with the whole time that she was a professor there at UVA.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you ready for us?
Yeah, I'm happy to. What I'll do is I'll sing the first verse of a song called "Hold On."
All right, sounds good.
So last flying, sighing, I love you. Got to get back to see my baby. Hold on, dear, I'm coming home. 4 weeks since I've come down to sleep with you. Hold on, dear, I'm coming home. When we touch down, feet hit the ground, will you be there? Will you be there? Hold on, dear, I'm coming home.
Yep, that's a taste of Mark definitely appreciate it and things of that nature. Now, excuse me, Mark, you live in Durham now, but if I remember correctly, you actually told me that you had moved here from another part of the country. Which part of the country was that again?
So, no, I was born in Durham, grew up in Chapel Hill, left for school and other stuff, but came back about 6 years ago.
And you came back from where? That's what I was trying to remember, where you came back from.
So I left and went to Boston, New York, Houston, Beijing, China, D.C., and then back to here.
So he's definitely a world traveler and things of that nature. Now, as you're trying to develop yourself as a musician and trying to get your word out there, I know a lot of your stuff you do and you release on your own. You mentioned Bandcamp. I can't remember if you're on Reverb Nation or things of that nature, but I was wondering how you felt it was being an independent artist. Whether you felt that was something easier to do, be an independent artist, or whether you're hoping to get picked up by a label at some point, or whether you would prefer having the control of being an independent.
Yeah.
Well, the ideal is to have control and be on a label, right? I mean, that may be that's possible. So I've performed in different iterations over the past year. So I've been in bands where the focus was on performing. There's been a couple of years where I was, like I said, just doing music for others, like composing stuff for other people. And now, you get older and you kind of get to a different perspective about things. And I am very interested in performing, getting more people into my performances, more people hearing my music. But the other parts of it, whether it's a big label success, that's not really, it's always be nice if that happened, but that's not really the focus. Really my focus right now is performing, making that connection with people in the audience, getting people humming my music, getting people excited about it. That's really what I want to happen.
Oh, that's good. And how do you feel that radio in general, not so much internet radio? We know that we do a good job of trying to break new artists, both on our show as well as on other shows that are out there in the world of the internet. But radio in general, how do you feel that they do in terms of trying to get independent artists any sort of platform? We've talked about this before, but I was just wondering your perspective as an artist as to how you approach going to radio stations, or if you even have any luck with local radio stations or local clubs in terms of trying to get your stuff heard.
Well, there's local radio and then there's local venues, and I have probably a more negative opinion of local venues than the radio. I think if you understand what the purpose of different radio stations is, then at least for me, there's certain radio stations where I may enjoy listening to them, but I can listen to about 2 hours every month and I'll hear everything they're going to play for that whole month. You know what I'm talking about. And that's fine because, I can listen to it for a couple hours and kind of catch up on all the top stuff and then move on to other things. But we have some really good indie radio stations in this area. You mentioned that you could tell one of my influences was jazz. My first instrument was saxophone and actually was trained by Arnold George, who works over North Carolina Central. And the radio station there is phenomenal, particularly on the weekends and evenings, as I'm sure many of you know. And state station is actually pretty good. And even though maybe not that many people listen to it, the radio station at UNC Chapel Hill, they'll play anything, literally, if you can catch them at the right time of day. So I think there's space on more commercial radio, at least locally. In terms of venues, the real issue for someone like me in a place like this where it's coming up in terms of the volume, the number of venues, but it's still very much what kind of music do you play? Where do you fit in? Can I put you in before this kind of touring act? Do you play the same kind of music? And it'll fit into their kind of boxes. And if you don't fit into those boxes, then you're pretty much cut out of a lot of that stuff, which is why I've started looking at other types of venues. You mentioned I perform at the Carrick, which is an art gallery in Durham. So I've been doing a monthly performance there. Performed a lot at the Ackland Art Museum here in Chapel Hill. And so I found that there's other venues that are a little more open to doing something that's not, it's not hip-hop, it's not jazz, it's not alternative rock. You know, in Chapel Hill, if you do alt rock, then you're just fine in terms of venues. So yeah, so that's how I would kind of speak to those, the radio and venues.
Well, Ty will be glad that you did mention Central. Can see, I did a blues show there many years ago, and that's actually some of where Ty got some of her radio background from, in addition to doing some stuff in Virginia as well. So I know that Ty is glad that you gave good props to WNCU and gave them some shout-outs, since that's part of her background as well.
Yeah. Yeah, great station.
Yeah, and they definitely do try to encourage other people as well to develop their sounds and things of that nature.
Very much so. Thank you for being a part of the show. Thanks for getting on the mic and showing us your skills, and your insight is always appreciated. Thanks for being a part of the Voice of the People today.
Absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity. October 27th, the next gig, I believe it's at the 21C Hotel in Durham. Hopefully have some performance coming up in Seattle and New York as well. But like I said, please follow me on Twitter at MAGADRITLE. Appreciate it.
Have you ever tried to do a performance in either New Jersey or Hawaii? Because that is both, New Jersey is where Dean is, and Hawaii is where Ty is. So you did allude to the fact that we're all scattered around. So I don't know whether you've ever performed in either one of those two states, but if you have material and want to send it to them, they may have some access to some venues. And, of course, I'm always going to try to find other venues here in the North Carolina, Virginia area for you as well. But that is where they are located at. So I don't know if you've performed in any of those states, but think about them if you haven't.
Well, I appreciate that. We'll catch up later. But I actually have a good friend of mine who is probably moving to Hawaii, so you never know.
So we got somebody coming your way, Ty. Looks like they've got some other folks invading from this area to Hawaii.
Oh, that's what's up. Okay.
Now, before I let you off, I did mention the song Lemonade. Now, would you tell me a little bit about that song Lemonade? Like I said, it's not the Beyonce version, and your love of this particular drink and how that song came about.
Yeah, so, I've been writing music for a while, and most, like, the core of the songs I'm performing right now I've written probably the past 1 or 2 years, but that song is actually quite old. I wrote that song, I think, in maybe 2000, so before Beyonce, okay? Way before that. I was in a band, and so I wrote it for our band, and the chorus, the hook, is lemonade, pour me some, so sweet, so tasty, I love to drink it all day. And, that's the core of the song. It's about lemonade. The band I was in, it's just kind of a silly funk band, and so most of our songs kind of were just upbeat and fun dance tracks, and I wrote that one, and that's what it's about. It's about lemonade. And, I do love lemonade. I don't know that I love it, more than sweet tea, but I just haven't written that sweet tea song yet, I guess.
So, like folks tell me that that's one of my addictions and one of the things that I drink way too much of. So if you make that sweet tea song, I know you'll have at least one buyer of that song, namely me, and there may be others, because Dean may even be a sweet tea lover as well. So there'll be at least a couple of folks that are sweet tea addicts that will probably be attracted to that song if you decide to make one about sweet tea.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely true. I love sweet tea, brother, so yes.
All right.
So you've got the idea that there needs to be a sweet tea song done as well, so keep that in mind.
I will.
So definitely,
Say that one more time, Mark.
Is Jessica still on the phone with us?
Yeah.
No.
Go ahead, Dean.
Oh no,
I
that's
said